everyone, my name is Amber, welcome back to my channel. This is my July TBR. So June wasn't the best month for reading because I was really busy that month, last month, but I did buy and acquire a lot of books. So I'm actually hoping that July will be the month that I get back on top of things, catch up, do some projects that I have been meaning to do for the longest time and I have been putting off. But this is actually my last chance to do some of them because, well, not last chance, but I'm kind of on a deadline because some of them are deadline driven. So let me show you what I have done to my TBR. It's broken up into sections because it's absolutely enormous. I don't know if I'm going to be able to finish all of these books, and because I am also a mood reader, this might actually change quite dramatically throughout July. But some of these should be really quick reads, so I do think that it's manageable at least, and I do have a few free weekends in July, so in theory I should be able to read all of these. So starting off, what I have done here is I'm planning to read all three of the first books in the Sapphic Trifecta. If you don't know what those are, I will tell you. So the first book is She Who Became the Sun by Shelley Parker Chan. I did start this book about a year ago, I think, and I didn't finish it. I think I read like 2 chapters, if that, and I did get on with the writing style. I don't actually know what it's about, but the second book in this series, duology, whatever, is coming out in August, I think. So I do need to read this and recap it for my website Recaptins. Recaptins is actually the reason why my TBR is so awful this month. So yeah, I really want to read this one. I'm really looking forward to it. The next book in the Sapphic Trifecta is The Unbroken by C.L. Clarke. I have started this one. I'm currently 77 pages through and I'm struggling with it. It's not awful, it's not the worst book, but I'm just really struggling to kind of get into the plot. But I am hoping that it will start to pick up because it's only the first like 80 pages. It has a lot of potential and I'm looking forward to carrying on with it. So this is about 2 women. One is called Turin. She is a soldier and she was taken from her homeland by Lucca's people, who are colonizers basically, and she was trained to be a soldier and her magic, or her people's magic, was oppressed. And then at the start of the book she is taken back to her homeland and she is obviously now working for basically the enemy, which means Lucca. I think this is probably quite a political fantasy and I do enjoy those, so I'm looking forward to continuing on with this one very soon. And then the third book in the trifecta is The Jasmine Throne by Tasha Suri. I haven't read any of her books before, but I did start The Empire of Sand and I really enjoyed that, so I'm hoping I'm going to love this one. From what I know about this, it's about a princess who has been imprisoned and a servant who has magic powers, and they obviously fall in love. I don't know what that what that hand motion was. So yeah, this is my first project for the month. I'm probably going to try to read one of these a week to kind of keep it going. Probably starting with The Unbroken because I've already started it, or She Who Became the Sun because it's the shortest. I don't know. Next I have a couple of non-fiction books because I wanted to break up all of the fiction that I will be reading, and I only chose 2 even though I do have quite a few on my shelf. I might read a few more. I do need to still finish The Gift of Fear, so I might carry on with that because I'm really in the mood to read that right now. But the 2 books I've picked up from my physical TBR are Unnatural Causes, which is written by Britain's top forensic pathologist. I've heard this is good. I don't know anyone who has read it apart from my partner's dad, I think, but it's a topic that I'm interested in, so I'm going to read it. And then also I Am Malala, which is an autobiography telling the story of the girl or woman who was shot by the Taliban. So 2 very different books, but both might be quite disturbing, maybe. I'm looking forward to reading both of them. And then I wanted to read some other lighter books as well because July is obviously summer and I haven't really been reading many contemporary romance books this year, so I would really like to get into that. Starting off, I have The Life and Medieval Times of Kit Sweetly. This is about a young girl who works in a restaurant which is medieval themed, and I guess she meets this guy and I think there's LARPing involved, so I'm really looking forward to reading this one. It sounds really cute. I found it for £1 in the charity shop, so I decided to pick it up, and I think this will be a good like palette cleanser between the big fantasy books, I think. I'm also planning on reading Loath to Love You by Ellie Hazelwood. I'm only going to read one story, or commit to reading one story, because I'm not a short story person, which does make you wonder why I bought this book. But I do know that I really enjoy Ellie Hazelwood's writing and her books always make me laugh, so I figured I would try to slot one of these stories in again in between the big fantasy books that I'll be reading to try to mix things up a little bit. I might end up reading all 3 of them. I think one of them is set during the winter, so I might save that one for later on in the year. I've also chosen to read How to Fake Like It in Hollywood by Ava Wilder, because I read their newest release, which came out in June, or is coming out in July. It's called Will They or Won't They, and I've already read it. I'll talk about it in my June wrap up, but I enjoyed it, so I decided to pick up her debut. I really enjoy stories about famous people in Hollywood, actually just actors and actresses. I don't like stuff about musicians or sports people generally, although Carrie Soto is the exception to that. Anyway, so I'm looking forward to reading this one. It says it's something about a love affair with a disgraced Hollywood heartthrob, and the male main character is going through a high-profile divorce, struggles with drinking, and he's fading into the background. I think it sounds really good, and I know that I really like this author's writing, so I'm looking forward to reading this one. I think those are all the kind of lighter books that I have, so there aren't very many. I might have to have a look through my shelves again to see if there's anything a bit nicer that I could be reading, because the other books that I've picked out are thrillers and mysteries. Actually, I think this next one is actually quite light, so I've picked up Finlay Donovan Knocks Them Dead, which is the second Finlay Donovan book, and I have actually heard that this series gets worse as the series goes on. I enjoyed the first one. I think I gave it 3 stars, so I'm not expecting to love this one, but I do need to read it and recap it for Recaptains because someone requested a recap from me, so I'm gonna read it and hopefully like it. So in the first book, Finlay Donovan is a writer, and she's really struggling with her next book. She's going through a divorce as well, and her husband is fighting for custody of their children, and she is talking to, I guess, her agent or editor one day in a cafe, and she's writing a murder mystery, and someone overhears and thinks that Finlay is actually an assassin, or like gun for hire basically, and so she gets involved in a load of ridiculous stuff. The first one is very campy. It wasn't really my favourite, but it wasn't bad either, so I'm looking forward to reading this one, kind of. I've also got The Three Dahlias by Katie Watson, which is set in a country house over a weekend, and I think there's a murder. I picked this one up from the charity shop, or from the library actually. I think they were selling it, because I've been seeing this promoted in Waterstones everywhere, and I've kind of had my eye on it, and I've not really heard anyone on Booktube talk about it, and I thought I would read it and maybe do a review. It says here that it's about 3 rival actresses, which again I enjoy, team up to solve a murder at the stately home of Lettice Davenport. What an odd name, Lettice maybe? So yeah, it's a convention about these books or TV show set in a country house and there's a murder, so I'm looking forward to reading this one. I cannot wait to see what happens. I've also picked up Do Not Disturb by A.R. Torre. This one is the sequel to Girl in 6E, which I read years ago, probably like 8 years ago now. Thankfully, I have done a recap of it, and I can, well, I've actually already gone back and reread what happened, because I couldn't really remember much about this, other than it's about a woman who is essentially a cam girl. This was before OnlyFans was a thing, and she thinks that one of her clients is dodgy, and he may be involved in a missing person's case, but the police don't take her seriously, so she takes it into her own hands, and I found it very empowering actually. So I've been meaning to carry on with this series since I read the first one, but I just never got my hands on the sequel, and now I do have it. I've had it for a while, and I figured I might as well pick it up this month. Another project I'm doing, yes I am still going, is I want to read 2 books which basically have the same title. I will be doing this project for other books as well, with books that have either the same title or same covers, because there are a lot of books out there with really similar book covers, but I've chosen a couple of easy ones to start with. The first one is Daughter of Sparta, because this one is also one that I need to recap soon for Recaptains. The 3rd book is coming out in September, so I need to read this, read the sequel, and then hopefully everyone will be up to date, ready for the 3rd book. I'm not really sure what this one is about. I think the main character is trained by Artemis, or I don't know, I might have just made that up, but it's a ancient Greek story, and it may have some mythological stuff going on as well. And then I have Daughters of Sparta by Claire Hayward. So the tagline for this one says, "For millennia men have claimed these women's tales, but now it's time to hear their side of the story." And it's about the princesses of Sparta, Helen and Clytemnestra, which I still cannot say properly without stumbling over. So yeah, I'll be reading these 2 together, maybe doing a reading vlog if you are interested. They're 2 very different books, but I think that's probably a good thing. They're different, otherwise I'll probably get a bit bored reading them back to back. And then finally, I have a couple of books or 3 books that I need to take back to the library soon, so I figured I would pick them up. First one is The Fall by Louise Jensen. I don't actually know what this one's about. A woman's daughter is found unconscious under a bridge when she should have been at school, and she's now in a coma, and the mum needs to figure out why that is. I requested this one from NetGalley and I didn't get approved, so I figured I would pick it up from the library because I was actually genuinely interested in reading it. I haven't heard many people talk about it since it came out, so I don't know if this is going to be like a hit. I don't really know what to expect from it, but I am looking forward to reading it. And then I also really want to read The Project by Courtney Summers. This is about a cult, I think. The main character's sister sister gets involved in a cult and the main character, I guess, has to try and get her out. So a lot of people picked this one up because they loved Sadie, and admittedly I did too. So I'm looking forward to reading it for that reason, because I expect really good things from Courtney Summers' writing, but I am expecting it to be very different from Sadie because it sounds like it's a very different kind of book. And then finally, the last book that I got from the library is Ascension. This one is about a mountain that appears in the middle of the ocean, and people are trying to figure out why it's suddenly appeared there, and they go and investigate. I don't know anything else about it. I don't know if I'm going to love this one. I just got it from NetGalley, and then I saw it was in the library, so I picked it up so I could read a physical copy. I'm really looking forward to trying this one, actually. It sounds very mysterious. So those are all the books that I am planning on reading in July. Like I said, I'm a mood reader, so this might change, but I do have a lot of things planned, and I also have a massive TBR, so I need to hurry up and get reading, to be honest, because otherwise I will never get through it. There are about 16 books here, I think, if I've counted correctly. They're currently in a massive pile by my feet, which is doable. Sometimes I do read 18 to 20 books a month. Other times I read 30, but that's only when I'm doing a challenge. So I think I can manage most of these, again, in theory, especially because one is just a short story and a couple of others are just normal YA contemporary books, which I can read quite quickly. Speaking of YA contemporary, I might also pick up the Princess Diaries book, the third one I think I'm on, if I'm in the mood for it, because I've been enjoying rereading that series as well. So yeah, I've got loads of reading plans. If you want me to do review videos or vlogs for any of these apart from the things I've mentioned, let me know in the comments below and I would be glad to do that. If you've got any recommendations for me, tell me what your reading plans are for July in the comments. Thank you for watching. I'll speak to you all in the next video. Bye!